Captain Lee Minho pressed his face against the cold metal of the viewport, watching the strange ship that had appeared from nowhere. The new soul had been traveling through space for 8 months, searching for any sign that Earth was not alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was not what anyone had expected. The alien vessel was beautiful in a way that made Minho's chest tight with wonder. Its hull curved like flowing water, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as he watched. No sharp edges, no visible weapons, just smooth perfection that spoke of technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. The ship was 3 times larger than the new soul, yet it moved with the grace of a dancer. "Captain, they're responding to our greeting," called Park Soyoung from her station. She was young, barely 25, but the best communications officer Earth had ever trained. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange symbols appeared on her screen. "Put it through the universal translator," Minho ordered, though his heart was racing. After so many years of wondering if they were alone, this moment felt like stepping into a dream. The voice that filled the bridge was cold and sharp, cutting through their hopes like a blade. "Unknown primitive vessel, you have violated Confederation space. Turn around immediately and return to your quarantine zone." Minho felt his stomach drop. Quarantine zone? What do you mean? Park Soyoung's hands trembled as she worked the translator. The alien's response came quickly, filled with what sounded like disgust. "Your species was quarantined for good reason. Earth and your entire solar system have been marked as restricted territory for over 300 years. 300 years, Dr. Kim Taeman stood up from his research station, his face pale. As the mission's leading scientist, he had spent his whole life studying the possibility of alien contact. "You've been watching us for 300 years. The alien's laugh was like breaking glass. "Of course we have been watching. The Galactic Confederation observes all developing species. Your kind was evaluated and found wanting. You are too violent, too chaotic, too primitive for civilized contact." Minho felt anger rising in his chest, hot and bright. "Who gave you the right to judge us? Who decided that we weren't good enough for your club?" "The Council of Worlds voted unanimously after careful study of your species. While we have achieved perfect harmony across 1,000 worlds, humans continue to wage wars over basic resources. You destroy your own planet while fighting each other. You are exactly the kind of species that the Confederation was created to protect civilized worlds from." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Every human on board could feel the weight of those words. They had come to the stars hoping to find friends, allies, maybe even teachers. Instead, they had found judges who had already decided they were failures. "Your technology is impressive," Dr. Kim said quietly, trying to keep his voice steady. "Perhaps we could learn from each other, share knowledge, work together to solve problems." "Learn from you." The alien's voice carried such scorn that several crew members flinched. What could a species that still uses chemical rockets and fights wars with metal projectiles possibly teach us? "We have had faster-than-light travel for over 2,000 years. We eliminated poverty, war, and disease from our worlds before your species discovered fire." Park Soyoung looked up from her station with tears in her eyes. "But we're here now. We made it to the stars. Doesn't that count for something?" "It counts as proof that the quarantine should have been stronger," the alien replied. "You will return to your system immediately, or you will be forced to return. This is your only warning." The alien ship began to move closer, and now Minho could see what looked like weapon ports opening along its graceful hull. The message was clear: "Leave now or be destroyed." "Captain," whispered his second officer, "what are your orders?" Minho stared at the alien ship for a long moment, feeling something change inside him. It was not shame or fear, though both were there. It was something harder, something that burned like fire in his chest. Determination, anger, pride. If the galaxy thought humanity was not worthy of joining their perfect club, then perhaps it was time to show them what unworthiness could accomplish. If they wanted to keep humans locked away like dangerous animals, then maybe it was time to prove just how dangerous humans could be when they put their minds to it. "Set course for home," he said quietly, "but not because they told us to. We're going home because we have work to do." As the new soul turned away from the alien ship, Minho made a silent promise. The Confederation thought humans were too primitive, too violent, too chaotic to join their perfect society. They were about to learn that sometimes being primitive and violent and chaotic was exactly what the universe needed. The real question was whether they would realize their mistake before it was too late. 5 years had passed since Captain Lee Minho returned to Earth with news that changed everything. The humiliation of being called primitive and unwanted had burned through humanity like wildfire. But instead of breaking their spirit, it had forged something stronger. Earth was no longer the same quiet world that had sent one small ship to explore the stars. Dr. Choi Hyjin walked through the halls of the United Earth Assembly Building, her tablet filled with reports that would have seemed impossible just years ago. Outside the windows, she could see the massive shipyards that now orbited Earth, where hundreds of vessels were being built every month. The sky was filled with the lights of ships coming and going, carrying people and supplies to worlds that had not even been discovered when the new soul first left home. In the Great Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation on Earth waited to hear her report. President Yoon Jae-ho sat at the center table, his face calm but his eyes bright with the same fire that had driven humanity since that first rejection. Behind him, the flags of 17 new worlds hung alongside Earth's banner. 5 years ago, we were told we were not good enough, Hyjin began, her voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. The Galactic Confederation called us primitive and violent. They said we were too chaotic to join their perfect society. Today, I am here to tell you what we have accomplished while they were busy congratulating themselves. She touched her tablet, and the air above the assembly filled with a holographic map of the galaxy. Tiny lights marked human colonies scattered across vast distances, each one a world where families were building new lives under alien suns. We now have 17 colonies across space that the Confederation considers worthless, she continued. While they focused on their ancient core worlds, we explored the frontier. While they built monuments to their past achievements, we built the future. President Yoon leaned forward. Tell them about the breakthrough, Doctor. Hyjin smiled, and the hologram changed to show technical diagrams that made several assembly members gasp. Using the alien technology we observed during our first contact, combined with our own research, we have developed quantum fold technology that makes Confederation ships look like toys from the past. Admiral Park Dong-wook stood up from his seat in the front row. He had been Minho's second officer on that first journey, a young man then who was now the commander of humanity's growing fleet. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate dress of Confederation officers, but it represented something they had never achieved: rapid adaptation and constant improvement. Their ships are faster in straight-line travel, Park explained, but our vessels are smarter. Every human ship uses adaptive AI systems that learn and change during flight. Our modular designs mean we can rebuild and upgrade our fleet in ways they never imagined. The assembly murmured with excitement as the hologram showed human ships that seemed to flow and change shape as they moved through space. Unlike the fixed, beautiful designs of Confederation vessels, human ships were built for function over form, with parts that could be swapped out and improved constantly. But technology is only part of the story, Hyjin continued. Our colonies are not just settlements, they are laboratories where we test new ways of living and working together. The display changed again, showing images from New Busan where farmers grew crops using techniques that produced 10 times more food than Earth's best farms. On New Seoul, engineers had built cities that floated in the clouds of a gas planet, harvesting energy from the constant storms below. On New Jeju, miners worked alongside AI partners to extract rare materials from asteroid belts, using methods that were safer and more efficient than anything the Confederation had developed, while they achieved perfect harmony by never changing. Park added, we achieved progress by never standing still. Every challenge made us stronger. Every failure taught us something new. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, where the Confederation's scout ships rarely bothered to patrol, human colonies were thriving in ways that would have shocked the aliens who had dismissed them. Children who had been born on distant worlds were already developing new technologies their parents could barely understand. Scientists were making discoveries that would have taken the Confederation centuries to achieve, simply because humans were not afraid to try things that might fail. The most remarkable thing was how fast it had all happened. The Confederation had spent thousands of years building their perfect society, moving carefully and slowly to avoid any mistakes. Humans had built something completely different in just 5 years, because they were not afraid of making mistakes. They learned from every error and tried again, always pushing forward into unknown territory. The Confederation sees barbarian expansion into worthless space, Hyjin concluded. They have no idea that we are quietly becoming what they claim to be, the galaxy's most advanced civilization. As the assembly erupted in cheers, Admiral Park looked out the window at the busy shipyards and smiled. The aliens who had rejected humanity were about to learn that sometimes the species you underestimate are the ones that surprise you the most on the depths of space. Human ships continued their work, spreading further into the darkness while their creators slept peacefully on Earth. Dreaming of the stars, Ambassador Kalsara had never shown fear in the 200 years she had served on the Confederation Council. Her species, the Xanathi, were known for their calm wisdom and perfect control over their emotions, but today, as she stood before the emergency session in the great crystal chamber that had hosted peaceful discussions for over 1,000 years, her hands shook like leaves in a storm. The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all of them trying to hide their own terror behind masks of dignity. The Kelveron delegates whispered to each other in their musical language, while the massive Thorgrams sat in heavy silence, their stone-like faces showing nothing, but Kalthara could smell the fear in the air like smoke from a distant fire. 12 more worlds have gone silent in the Outer Rim, she announced, her voice barely steady. Kethmoran, with its billion inhabitants, Veltar Prime, home to our greatest artists, New Thylos, where our children learned to dream of peace among the stars. She paused, and when she continued, her voice broke slightly. The Devourers leave, nothing behind, no ruins, no survivors, no trace that civilization ever existed. The silence that followed was deeper than the space between stars. Fleet Commander Morganis, whose species had not known defeat in 3,000 years of warfare, slammed his massive appendage on the council table with such force that the ancient crystal cracked. "Our finest warships cannot touch them," he roared, his voice filled with rage and helplessness. "Our energy shields, perfected over millennia, collapse like paper. Our plasma cannons, which can destroy asteroids, do not even slow them down. They consume everything in their path like a fire that feeds on hope itself." High Counselor Vextany, eldest of all the delegates, raised one frail hand for silence. She had lived for over 800 years and had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations, but even she seemed shaken by what they faced. "How many worlds have we lost?" she asked quietly. 47 confirmed, Kalthara replied. "But we have lost contact with 63 more. The attacks follow no pattern we can understand. They strike without warning, without communication, without mercy." Meanwhile, on the human colony world of New Busan, Director Lee Suman sat in a room filled with screens and data displays, surrounded by his team of analysts. The walls were covered with star charts marked with red zones where Confederation worlds had fallen silent. Unlike the grand crystal chambers of the Alien Council, this room was simple and practical, built for work rather than ceremony. Sumin was a thin man with graying hair who had spent most of his life studying alien communications. When humanity had been rejected by the Confederation, he had made it his mission to listen to their transmissions and learn everything he could about their society. Now that knowledge was proving more valuable than anyone had expected. "Play the transmission again," he said to his assistant, Commander Han Yujin. The speakers filled with the panicked voices of Confederation officers, their words translated by human computers that had learned to understand dozens of alien languages. The fear in their voices needed no translation. "Emergency broadcast from the 7th Fleet. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Our shields are failing. They are not responding to any communication attempts. By the void they are tearing through our hull like it is made of soft clay. This is Admiral Korthavel. If anyone receives this message, warn the core worlds. Tell them that everything we thought we knew about warfare is wrong." Then static. Another world, another fleet, another desperate voice calling into the darkness. Before falling silent forever, Analyst Kong Minyong looked up from her workstation, her face pale. "Director, I have been studying the attack patterns. The Devourers are not random in their strikes. There is a logic to what they do, but it is not a logic that the Confederation understands." "Show me," Suman said. The main display changed to show a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers showed where the Devourers had struck, creating a pattern that looked chaotic at first glance. But as Minyong highlighted the timeline of attacks, something else became clear. "They are testing the Confederation's responses," she explained. "Each attack is designed to learn how their enemies fight. The Confederation uses the same tactics they have used for thousands of years: rigid formations, predictable strategies, weapons that have not changed in centuries. The Devourers adapt to each response and then move on to the next target." Commander Han leaned forward. "But they have completely avoided human space. 17 colonies, dozens of mining stations, hundreds of ships moving through the Outer Rim, and not one Devourer attack." Suman nodded slowly. "Either they do not know we exist, or they are saving us for last." He looked at the spreading pattern of red markers. creeping closer to the Confederation's core worlds like a disease. The question is, what do we do with this information? Outside the window, New Bizan's twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. In the distance, human ships moved between the stars, their crews unaware that somewhere in the darkness, an enemy was learning how to destroy everything they held dear. The message arrived in the dead of night, bouncing through 17 different star systems to hide where it came from. In his private office on Earth, President Yoon Jae-ho watched as the encrypted signal slowly decoded itself, revealing a face he had hoped never to see again. Ambassador Veltora of the Xanathi appeared on his screen, but she looked nothing like the proud alien who had dismissed humanity 5 years ago. Her elegant features were drawn with exhaustion, and her usually perfect robes were wrinkled and stained. Most shocking of all, she could not meet his eyes through the transmission, staring instead at something off to the side like a child caught in a terrible lie. Your species has been monitoring our situation, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. The translator struggled with her words, as if even the machine was embarrassed by what it had to convey. President Yoon sat perfectly still in his chair, his face showing nothing. Behind him, the lights of Earth's orbital stations twinkled like stars, a reminder of how much humanity had accomplished since their rejection. We are aware of the Devourer threat, he replied simply. Veltara flinched as if he had struck her. Half our worlds are gone, she continued, and now her voice cracked slightly. Our greatest fleets, ships that had never known defeat in 3,000 years of service, have been destroyed without even slowing the enemy down. Our most brilliant commanders are dead or missing. She paused, and Yoon could see her struggling with words that had probably never been spoken in the entire history of her proud species. The Council is considering ... double quotes, another pause, longer this time. We may need to request assistance from ... external sources. Director Kim Hyansu, head of Earth's intelligence service, stepped into view of the camera. He was a small, quiet man who had spent his career listening to alien transmissions and learning their secrets. Now, for the first time in years, he smiled. You mean from the primitive barbarians you would not allow into your club? He asked pleasantly. Veltara's silence was louder than any scream. She sat frozen on the screen, unable to deny the truth of his words. The species that had called humans to violent and chaotic to deserve contact with civilized races was now begging those same humans for help. How many of your people are still alive? Yoon asked quietly. We estimate, perhaps 2 billion across all remaining worlds, Veltara replied. Before the attacks began, we numbered over 40 billion souls spread across the galaxy. The Devourers do not take prisoners, they do not negotiate, they simply consume everything and move on to the next target. Meanwhile, in the military command center deep beneath Seoul, Admiral Park Dong-wook stood before a massive holographic display showing the galaxy. Red markers indicated where Devourer attacks had occurred, creating a pattern that looked like a growing infection spreading through Confederation space. Around him, his staff studied data that had been gathered by human scout ships over the past months. Captain Oh Ji-hoon had just returned from a dangerous reconnaissance mission to the edge of Devourer territory. His ship, the Busan Runner, was built for speed and stealth rather than fighting, perfect for gathering intelligence while staying hidden from enemies who destroyed everything they encountered. They are not random, Park explained to his assembled officers, pointing at the pattern of red markers. There is a clear logic to their movements, but it is not a logic that the Confederation can understand. His intelligence officer, Commander Lee Do-yoon, stepped forward with her analysis. The Confederation fights like they have always fought. Perfect formations, predictable strategies, weapons and tactics that have not changed in centuries. They are like a chess player who always makes the same moves. And the Devourers? Park asked. They learn from every encounter, she replied. Each attack teaches them more about how Confederation forces will respond. By the time they reach the next target, they have already adapted to counter every defense. Captain O nodded grimly. I watched them destroy a Confederation battle group near the Vega system. The aliens tried their standard shield wall formation, just like they have used for 1,000 years. The Devourers broke through it in less than 10 minutes. Back in the president's office, Veltara was still struggling to find words that would not destroy what remained of her dignity. We have protocols for requesting aid from fellow members of the Confederation, she said finally. But you are not members. We have no established procedures for this situation. Director Kim laughed softly. You mean you have no idea how to ask for help from people you consider inferior? We do not consider you, Veltara began, then stopped. The lie would not come. After watching her civilization crumble while humanity thrived, she could no longer pretend that the Confederation's judgment had been correct. President Yoon leaned forward slightly. Ambassador, let me make this simple for you. You rejected us because you thought we were too primitive and violent. Now your perfect, peaceful civilization is being destroyed by an enemy you cannot understand or fight. You need our help to survive. Veltara closed her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Then ask properly, Yoon said quietly, not as superiors requesting aid from inferiors, but as people in desperate need asking for mercy from those they have wronged. Captain, Lee Do-yoon watched the enemy ships move across her screen like dark shadows. The Devourers had destroyed entire worlds, and now they were heading straight for the Confederation's capital system. She knew this would be the final battle. All human ships. This is Captain Lee. She spoke into her communicator. Remember what we learned. Stay flexible. Don't follow their old rules. The alien ships around her moved in perfect lines, just like they always did. The Xanathi cruisers formed neat triangles. The Catherian destroyers made precise squares. They had been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Lee's ship, the Soul's Pride, broke away from the formation. Behind her, dozens of other human vessels did the same thing. The alien commanders sent angry messages, telling them to get back in line. Let them complain, Lee muttered. She had seen what happened when ships stayed in formation against the Devourers that got picked off one by one. The enemy appeared on the edge of the system like a black storm. Their ships were huge and twisted, looking more like living creatures than machines. They had eaten entire civilizations and grown stronger with each victory. The Confederation fleet charged forward in their traditional attack pattern. The Dev were ready for them. Dark energy beams cut through the alien ships like knives through paper. In minutes, half the Confederation forces were gone. Now we show them how humans fight, Lee said. The human ships scattered in all directions. Some dove under the enemy formation. Others came at them from the sides. A few brave captains flew straight through the middle of the Devourer fleet, firing. As they went, the enemy had never faced anything like this. They were used to opponents who followed rules and patterns. Humans didn't follow any rules at all. Captain Park's ship suddenly appeared behind 3 Devourer vessels. Instead of attacking the strongest one first, like military books taught, he hit the weakest ship and used its explosion to damage the others. Commander Kim's destroyer pretended to be badly damaged. When enemy ships came close to finish her off, she revealed hidden weapons and destroyed them all. The human tactics confused everyone, including their allies. A Xanathi captain called Lee on the radio. What are you doing? This is not how space battles work. That's exactly why it's working, Lee replied. But the cost was terrible. Captain O's ship, the Busan Thunder, took a direct hit while protecting a group of alien fighters. Lee watched it explode in a ball of fire. O had been her friend since training academy. More human ships fell. The destroyer Incheon Brave rammed itself into a Devourer command vessel to stop it from escaping. The cruiser Jeju's Hope sacrificed itself to save a damaged alien medical ship full of wounded. The battle raged for hours. Space was filled with wreckage and fire. Both sides were running out of ships and ammunition. Then Director Shin made her decision. Her small science vessel carried a special weapon that human scientists had built in secret. It could destroy the main Devourer command ship, but someone had to deliver it by hand. I'll take it, Shin announced over the radio. That's suicide. Admiral Park's voice came through the static. The ship is too well protected. Not if I go right down their throat, Shin said. Lee watched as Shin's ship dove straight toward the massive enemy flagship. The Devourers threw everything they had at the small vessel. Shin's ship was hit again and again, pieces breaking off. But she kept flying. At the last second, Shin's voice came over the radio one final time. For Earth, for all the worlds they called us too primitive to save. The explosion lit up the entire system. The Devourer command ship died, and with it, their ability to coordinate their attack. The remaining enemy vessels, confused and leaderless, began to retreat. The human and alien ships that survived slowly gathered together. They had won, but barely. So many good people were dead. Ambassador Valtara, one of the aliens who had always looked down on humans, came to Lee's ship after the battle. Her proud species had refused to let Earth join their council for decades. They had called humans too young, too violent, too unpredictable. We were wrong about you, Valtara said when she met Lee in the docking bay. We thought discipline and order were the highest forms of warfare. We didn't understand that sometimes chaos can be a weapon too. Lee looked tired. She had lost many Friends, that day, we didn't want to prove anything to you. We just wanted to survive. All of us. Your people saved the galaxy, Veltara continued. The qualities we mocked: your refusal to follow old rules, your willingness to sacrifice everything for others, your ability to adapt, these things won the war. Through the viewport, Lee could see human and alien ships working together to rescue survivors. The galaxy would be different now. The species that had once refused to give humans respect had learned that being civilized wasn't about following ancient traditions. Sometimes it meant breaking all the rules to do what was right.